Hey y'all, Coach Jennifi here. Got Stacy with me.
Hey y'all.
And in today's video, we're talking about fasting. Actually, the fast of the 4th month, which falls on July the 5th in the year 2025. In yesterday's live stream, I talked about fasting. Isaiah 58, we went through half the chapter. But the video was about the Sabbath day. So what I've done is gone in and taken out a portion of Isaiah 58 that explains how we are to do a proper fast. And that's what we're going to hear in this video. Getting us ready for the fast tomorrow. Make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll hear about Isaiah 58 and how a proper fast is supposed to look. We're going to find out that it's not necessarily about fasting from food as it is about doing the Lord's work. But we have a particular interest in fasting because of what we see over in Zechariah chapter 8 and verse 19. You want to read that, Stacey?
The Lord of heavenly forces proclaims the fast of the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th months will become times of joy and gladness. Pleasant feasts for the house of Judah, love, truth, and peace.
See, these feasts are in remembrance of hard times, times when things went bad, like the fast of the 10th month is when they besieged the Jerusalem. The fast of the 4th month was when they put a famine on Jerusalem. The fast of the 5th month is remembering that they burned the whole temple down in the 5th month. And so that's what these fasts are about, is remembering these times when they destroyed the temple and hurt the Father's people. But we see here, according to Zechariah, these days become days of joy in the end times. Whereas before they was days of hardship. In the end times, they become days of joy for the house of Judah. Not necessarily for all of Israel, but we remember Judah is the tribe that specialized in praise of our Father. And so those that are giving praise and honor to our Father in these times and participated in the fast will find joy in those days. And so we just wanted to bring it out, reminding people that we have this fast coming up tomorrow.
Right.
And so with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the meat of this video, which is coming out of Isaiah 58. And so we can hear all of the rules associated with fasting. Let's go ahead and run through this chapter. It says, "Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my mercy their transgression, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins." See, that's what my job is, guys. Not to comfort you, not to make you feel better. It's to show you the path and to show you what you're doing wrong. My job is to show you what you're doing wrong. You know, I'm a coach in this thing. Now think if you came to me to play baseball and you there swinging and striking out, and I don't have the audacity to come and tell you what's wrong with your swing. You know, are you tucking your elbow in? Are you turning your hips like you're supposed to be? Are you pulling your head out? You know, are you doing something? If I see those things and I sit there and ignore it and not tell you, am I really got your best interest in heart? Do I have the team's best interest in heart? Do I have baseball's best interest in heart if I won't tell you what you're doing wrong? Well, the same thing when it comes to this walk. You know, we are in this thing together, but when we see our brother transgression, it's our responsibility to point that out. Now, if they say, mind your business, yes, we mind our business, but like the man says, it's our job to blow the trumpet. And if we don't blow the trumpet and they get in trouble, it's our fault. If we blow the trumpet and they decide to ignore it, now it's their fault. So the house of Jacob, some of you guys watching this video aspire to be in the house of Jacob as I do. You know, y'all working to get in this thing. It's called the tower. The temple, some refer to it as it, in the Shepherd of Hermas is referred to as the tower. We all aspire to be to this thing, but it is the house of Jacob that we're talking about. And so we're talking about the sins. Now, what sins is it that we're talking about? The way we're doing stuff. This one here is going to talk about some of the sins related to the Sabbath day. And breaking of the Sabbath day, if we get through this all. It says, "Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways. And as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinances of their God, they ask me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching to God." As if we didn't do this. We act as if we are a nation that does righteous. Like we said, I was in a church environment, and the deacon was asking a question with authority. Like my wife would say, he was a little bit arrogant in the way he was asking it, because he was asking it as a way as if he deserved it. Why don't we have these things? It says it right here. Jacob was supposed to get these things. Why don't we have these things? We're asking as if we did not forget the ordinance of God. See, it's a tit for tat thing. We do the ordinances so we can get those things. If we don't do the ordinances, what do we have the right of these things? Talking about the inheritance of Jacob. Food, clothing, water. Well, it may not necessarily been clothing. Somebody give me the verse that he's talking about, that Jacob's ladder, so I can pull it up without having to search for it. It's in the book of Genesis. And verse 3 says, "Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou sayest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure, and exalt all your labors." So fasting is supposed to be something that we do in order to get a blessing, if we think about it. I know, I'm saying the quiet part out loud. I realize that. But, why else are we fasting? Other than to get something, right? That's the purpose. That's what they did it for in the Bible. When they had these big community fasts, it was because there was something going on. Esther, there was something going on that they needed a bunch of people to participate. And the easiest way to get everybody to participate in a fast was to tell them to stop eating. And so they had these no food fasts in the Bible. But right here in verse 4, it's saying, he's asking why. Why have we done this? We're talking about the fast of the 4th month. We've been doing this fast of the 4th month for over 2,000 years now. You read in the book of Daniel, we were supposed to start the fast of the 4th month back there when they knocked down the temple with Nebuchadnezzar. And then we were supposed to go 1,390 years and then 1,335 years. That's about 2,500 years of doing this particular fast that he's talking about. So 2,500 years, people still asking, why are we fasting? Some people don't even know. They're ignoring it all together. Look back at the calendar. They're like, what? It's a fast? Yep, yeah. The 9th of Tammuz, the 9th day of the 4th month. What it is a fast in remembrance of the famine that was put on the temple. We had Nebuchadnezzar that came in on the 10th day of the 10th month and surrounded the city and started the people out for 2 years. And it was on the 4th day of the 9th day of the 4th month, 2 years later, that the famine had gotten so bad that people just lost it. They just, that was it. And then, of course, the next month, looking at the calendar, in our year, around August the 4th, would have been the 10th of Av, the day they actually burned it down, the temple down. That's going to correspond to about August the 4th this year. But anyway, talking about fasting in Isaiah 58. Behold, ye fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of righteousness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. See how they're fasting in verse 3? We're doing the fasting wrong, and even when we do the fasting wrong, like we see in verse 4, we're just doing so to make an argument. Hey, I fasted. And so it ain't so much as, the way we are supposed to, which is going to describe here. It says, is it such a fast that I have chosen? A day for a man to afflict his soul, as it is to bow down his head as a bulrush, and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day of the Lord? So the people are starving themselves, which we learned that they did that, like in the book of Esther, when they was having a group fast. That was, like I said, the only way to get everybody to participate is to have them just to not eat. But it's really more about afflicting the soul. You can't have no really other way to have the whole group. Maybe if it was wintertime, they could have all went outside, naked, but that would have been anyway. No food fast was the thing that they did in groups. I bring that up because he's saying that was wrong. We wasn't supposed to do no food fast. It wasn't really about the no food fast as it was so much about a personal fast, and we'll see what that is right here. He's asking in verse 4, is that the fast you thought I was talking about? Starving yourself, looking all pitiful, looking all sad, like you all hungry and stuff. Is that what you thought? That's not what he meant when he said the fast. He says, is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke? So he's saying, ain't this the fast that I told you to do? Notice how different this is. Instead of you putting down your steak and potatoes and just worrying about yourself and your own belly, dreaming about steak and potatoes, which you're only going to eat a double portion of anyway. When you think about it, you're going to get a double portion. Either you get it before the fasting day when you eat twice as much, or you get it after the fasting day when you eat twice as much, or if you like me, you greedy, you get both of them twice as much. So the fasting day ends up being a net calorie gain. Net calorie gain. Yeah, it was a few minutes there when you was hungry, but you piled it on at first and you piled it on at the last, so you ended up gaining more weight from the fasting day. And then we complained about it, looked hungry and stuff. But he said, no, ain't this what I told you to do? To deal thy bread to the hungry, to feed the hungry. Don't worry about your own belly and what you're doing. How about take some of that bread and go give it to somebody else? Ooh, now you're doing something. Now you're doing something. What does that do? That builds humility. When you actually got to carry that bread and give it to somebody, it literally humbles you. It humbles you and turns you into a different person. Whereas before, you sitting there haughty thinking about your steak that you're going to be eating. Now you actually thinking about the fact that somebody else don't have a steak to eat. That humbles you. And that's what he's talking about, afflicting your soul. You done dropped down a whole lot of levels now, didn't you? When you start thinking about other people that don't have food. He says, and bring the poor into thy house. What did he say? And bring the poor that are cast out into thy house. Now you're doing something. You're worrying about somebody else that don't have a house. That humbles you. Especially when you're thinking about, you could be you. Can be you. The only reason why you have a house is because he allows you to have a house. And he can change that any second. When thou seest the naked, thou coverest him. So he's saying this is what the fast is truly supposed to be about. Covering the naked. We learn in the New Testament, if we got 2 coats, to give them away. I'm looking in this room right now and I was thinking out of the day, I got all these coats in here that I got to put away from the wintertime. How about, I don't know. That's what true fasting is. Anyway. He says to undo the heavy burdens. People that have burdens on them, to go help them out. A lot of people got a lot of weight on them these days. And you can tell what weight on. All you got to do is look at a person more than 5 minutes. You'll see what's weighing them down. And just help them, with that burden for a minute. Even if you just hold it up off of them and, let them stretch their limbs and, shake it off a little bit, be good, And then he says, and to let the oppressed go free. And a lot of this stuff we do through prayer. We ain't expected to go down there and, start trying to find the oppressed in the jailhouse. Which one of y'all are oppressed? You need to go free. You need to be an advocate for your release. But we are praying for people too. And to break every yoke. This is the type of the fast he's talking about. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor to cast out of the house? Okay. And that thou seest the naked. I already read that part. It says, then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go forth before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. Now see, this is why we do this. You say, now why Will we go through all of this? Feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, bringing people we don't know into our house and all of that. If we were to do this, it says right here, then. So we got to go back. Did it say if up there somewhere? There's got to be an if up there somewhere. There's an if up there somewhere. Because now it's saying then. Then, it's two thens. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning. He's talking about the morning star there. You'll get the morning star there by doing this fast correctly. You'll get the morning star. And thine health shall spring forth speedily. Health. Now, so there's your light of your understanding. Now it's talking about your body getting health. This is why you want to do the fast of the 4th month coming up here in a few days. And thy righteousness shall go before thee. What? Your righteousness shall go before thee? All right. That's a big deal. And the glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. The glory of the Lord will be your reward. Now, how is that going to work? You can imagine that for a minute. Just ponder the idea that the glory of the Lord is going to be your reward. Why? For participating in this fast, participating in the fast, and doing fast correctly. But he ain't finished. He says, then thou shalt call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am. If thou take away from the midst of the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. So if we do this, here's an if. He says, if thou shalt take away from the midst of thee the yoke, and putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. Okay? We do those things. Might need a whole Bible study on what exactly that would actually look or could look like. He says, then thou shalt call. How important is it for us to have or get this understanding? Because then we shall call and he shall answer. So like the deacon speaking all arrogantly, yeah. Once he starts to do this stuff, it looks like, he'll have the answer because he calls and the Father will answer. Sometimes we've dealt with unanswered prayers. This is why, isn't it? If he's saying we do this and he will answer, then isn't the opposite true? Well, here's a reason for our answered prayers or how to get our prayers answered. Thou shalt cry and he shall say, here am I. Why? Because we looked out for others. We took the time to look out for the hungry, the poor, and a whole lot of other people up there, homeless. And if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall the light rise in obscurity and thy darkness be as the noonday. Feed the hungry. Okay? Especially people who can now. Some of us be looking for opportunities to do charitable deeds. Well, here's one that tells you feeding the hungry is a big deal. But here's another one. And if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, meaning if you do feed the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity and thy darkness be as the noonday. So it don't get dark no more for you. You don't see darkness no more. Darkness don't exist. When it get dark for everybody else, it's like you in the noon. You know stuff. Everybody else gonna be confused and trying to figure stuff out. And for you, it will be just like it's noonday, just like it is out there right now. And the Lord shall guide thee continuously. Oh, wait. And the Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water whose water fail not. See, these are the promises of the Bible. Right? You know, these are the blessings of the Bible. They can be watered down and people be like, is that? No, well, this is a lot. You know, especially when we think of how hard times are for some people right now to have these blessings. A lot of people in the world would love to have these kind of blessings and stuff right now. Well, this is how they get them. And he's no respect of persons. If he's no respect of persons, you know he's no respect of countries. So it doesn't really matter where you're at. You can stop doing what you're doing, participate in the fasting properly, and actually start to expect these blessings the way we're reading it here, tit for tat. You will be like a watered garden and a spring of water whose water fails not. He says, and they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairers of the breach, the restorers of the past to dwell in. Why would you be called the repairers of the breach? Why are you going to be called the repairers of the path to dwell in? Because he just told you going to give you a morning star. What do you think that's going to do for you? It's going to lead you back to the paths. And now you're going to be teachers. Now you're going to be speaking. Now you're going to be teaching people about feast days. Your children is what he's saying. That those who come from after you will be those who will be restoring the feast days. Whereas we're having trouble getting them going, like we're trying to start up a car that needs a good flywheel. They're going to be called the repairers of the breach. They're going to be the generation of the repairers of the breach. Those that come from those that participate in this fast correctly. All right, so there you have it. The rules associated with fasting.
Right. It's really about helping others.
Being clean.
Yeah.
In ourselves. That's really what we're fasting from, is fasting from selfishness, fasting from infidelity and such things. And the only real reason why they did it with food back in the day, because they did do no food fast, was because that's really the only way that you could get the whole community involved in afflicting their soul, by telling them not to eat that day. You could have did the same thing by telling them not to put warm clothes on that day, and they go out and be cold, be sitting there shivering all day. It would have had a similar effect, but somebody would have been warmer than others. But we all feel the same pain when we miss the food, so that's why they did it that way. But now that we're on an individual basis, we recognize that it's more about emulating our Father or our Messiah, and what he was doing is a proper fast. So with that, if you got anything out of this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. If you have any questions or concerns or anything, put them in the comment section, and I'll see you down there.
We'll see you guys on the next video. Shalom.
Shalom.